Hello and welcome to the CCW Safe podcast. I'm Rob High in Oklahoma City, joined by Phillip Naman, my partner on the other end of the universe. Where are you at, Phil?
Prescott today. Prescott. This is the CCW Safe Studios in Prescott, Arizona.
Got a kid. How was your week?
Busy. Life is busy. I had my 30th anniversary, so got to celebrate that, and we went to Kauai, came back, and work's busy, and lots of things are happening in the world. I don't know if you knew that or not, but there's actually some like world events happening. I forget exactly what it was. So anyway, something in Europe.
Something over there.
It was
something over there where if you don't change your prosecutor, I'm going to withhold.
And son of a bee. 3 hours later, he was fired. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got that. I got to go this weekend to Mass Ayoub's class.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic. Absolutely high speed. All classroom. It was 20 hours, 10 on Saturday, 10 on Sunday. Heat up your lunch, get back to your desk and keep going because we're working through.
That sounds awesome. Where was that at?
It was out at Bill Armstrong's range. It's called Meade Hall Gun Range out in McLeod, Oklahoma. Bill's got an absolutely magnificent place out there. He's got a great classroom facility. He's got some training deals that you can do inside that are like video kind of things. He's got a good long range as well, turning system, and he's just plugging along and doing this bit by bit and paying as he goes, and he is in a constant state of improvement. And it's really, with the guys that he has coming in giving instruction, he's turning that into one of the premier little private ranges in the southwest part of the country. It's really, really nice.
So how far out of that from Oklahoma City?
It is about a 35 minute drive for me. So it's not terrible.
So it's an easy flight into Oklahoma City, 30 minutes out to the training area. It's not like you're landing and driving for 4.5 hours.
Well, and there's a huge casino and hotel less than a mile away from the range. So pretty nice little setup and easy access. It is just straight off of I-40. So doesn't take anything to get in and get out.
I think Masad Ayoub, I think he's got something scheduled out here at Gunsight in Prescott pretty quick. I think Probably. He's got something up there. They were talking to me about that. Yeah. So I'd like to go see that too.
He's super busy. He's got great information.
How long has he been doing this? I remember he was on Soldier of Fortune in like 1980, 82 time frame.
71, I think.
He's 71?
No, he started in 71.
Okay.
So yeah, he's been at it for a minute. As much depth of knowledge as anybody I've ever got to sit under. And I've got to study with some really, really high speed guys.
It's only been 52 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And over time he's got, whether full-time or part-time, a lot of it was part-time as well, but he's got like 43 years law enforcement experience. He's a premier expert on use of force and use of firearms and things like that. Really high-speed shooter. I talked to some guys that shot next to him at TACCon last year, the year before, and they were like, really didn't expect much from him, but that guy can still operate a trigger. So a wealth of knowledge. I took 19 pages of notes on the first day and 15 pages of notes on the second day. I didn't want to lose anything. I didn't want to miss anything. So it was really, really good. If you ever get a chance to sit in and take one of his courses, it's absolutely worth the time investment, I promise. So Other things that are popping up, and you and I had discussed off air earlier, is the wave of states that are moving towards constitutional carry. I'm absolutely okay with this. I'm not opposed at all. My thing as somebody that would respond to your incident is I personally like that you have a little bit of vetting if you're a licensed carrier. I also know people that think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on some list and they're going to know that I've got a gun and I don't want to do that. I'm okay with that too.
The fact is, if you legally own your firearm, you're already on a list.
Correct.
You're already there.
Correct. Some of the things for people that have been in that position that are just like, I'm not going to go through this class. I'm not going to get stuck on this list. I'm not going to do anything, but now I'm going to carry because I can. I really want you to take the time to do some study, do some research, take a class or two, get out there and get plugged in. If you're going to carry a firearm, it is a tremendous responsibility. And Phil and I have talked about this ad nauseum. Open carry is one thing, but open carry makes me the very first target in the room. I have no element of surprise. You have the right to do that. And if you want to do that, that's fine. But if you're going to open carry, if you're going to carry, period, get with people that have done this for a long time. Find out what works, what doesn't work. I don't want to do, number one, I'm never going to risk my life to $100 firearm. I'm going to spend money. I'm going to get something that is a good working tool. I'm not going to put a $500 gun in a $17 holster. That $17 holster is going to get ripped away and taken, and has no retention systems built into it or anything like that.
Let's talk about that real quick. So you need, open carry is great, but you want to have open carry, not negligent carry. Yep. And there are companies in Safari Land. I know Neil Perkins, I've had him on my show many, many times to talk with him, and he's into safety. That's, they don't make firearms, they make safety equipment, holsters with retention. He said that all of his exterior holsters, all of them have a retention device. Now it could be a thumb button. Like my favorite one I have of his has just to depress the thumb and it releases the gun. Others have a little switch, the button where your middle finger, as you grab the gun and lift it up, it's going to release it. None of them involve using your index finger, which I think is, as we've seen in some cases, a better idea than not. But you have a retention. So what does that mean? It means if somebody pushes you, you fall down, the gun doesn't go spilling out across the concrete and come into play. It stays where it needs to be on your hip. So if you are going to carry outside of your pant line, I think you really need to have a holster with a retention device on it. I don't know why you wouldn't want one. I think the worst case would be something like, a universal holster that fits all and yet none, holds your gun loosely or is nylon, and just, you're asking for trouble. If you're going to have a firearm on your hip, realize that if there's a bad guy in the room with nefarious intentions, he's either coming for your gun or he's coming for you first. So you need to be aware of that.
Even on some of the even more higher priced leather holsters, if you're getting a product that breaks down and gets pliable on you and doesn't hold its form, you're sacrificing some safety there. Phil mentioned Safari Land by name. I'm a fan of Safari Land. When I was at the police academy running recruits through, I would get makers all the time that would say, hey, I want you to try my holster. I'd say, great, send me 3 or 4. 3 or 4. Why do you need 3 or 4? I said, because I'm going to put them on my guys and we're going to go out into the gym and we're immediately going to see what we can do to defeat it and tear it up. You're asking me to put these on police officers. I need to make sure that it's going to do what you tell me it's going to do. Safariland was that one that always held up to the rigors in the test that we put it through. And
we don't own stock. We don't have any affiliation with them.
No affiliation at all. I'm just telling you that they did what they told me they would do. And it's a brand and a product that I trust. It is a safe product. And like Phil was talking about, it does have different measures of retention and security built into it. So even if I was caught unaware and somebody came up behind me and tried to pull it up really quick, if they don't know how to operate my holster, that gun's not going anywhere. I have a second for reaction time to go into my retention, which is another side of this. If you're going to carry a gun, you better get a little bit of training on handgun retention. I used to think I have strong hands. I can do this. I can do that. I was a grappler until I got on the streets and I saw guys that were defensive tactics instructors that lost their gun in a fight. And that was such an eye opener for me because it can happen to anybody. It's like a fighter. Everybody, I don't care who you are, everybody has an easy button. Everybody is susceptible to the lucky punch. It's just something that exists in the world.
And as we've spoken many times before, action beats reaction. So, you're not walking around with your hand on your pistol all the time looking for a target, or if you do, you're psycho, but you're not, right? And your clients are definitely not that kind of a person. But the point is, if somebody's making a move against you, you're reacting. And if you don't have retention on your holster, that's one more thing that could go wrong. Maybe you get punched. We see a lot of these videos, CCTV videos of maybe it's a gas station, maybe it's a grocery store where somebody's walking along and gets sucker punched from behind. I saw one yesterday. It was terrible. This guy's in like a Best Buy, or I shouldn't say that. I don't know the name of the store, but it was a big box store. And the guy's walking through and he just comes up behind some young kid who's got his earphones on, little backpack. He's playing with his phone and just sucker punches him from behind and knocks him out, steps over and walks out the door. Why did he do it? Because he could, because he's a thug. But that kid just got, it's easy to get distracted. You hear a noise, you look up, something walks by, you look over here, you're in a grocery store, they grab a can of Swanson's 2-pound beans and smack you across the back of the head. You've lost control. You didn't see it coming. And that's the problem with an ambush. It's an ambush you don't see coming. You have to react to it.
And like you're saying, we would drive ourselves crazy. We would be mental if we were at that state of conscious alertness all of the time. So if I have a pistol on me, I like having that element of surprise. I like having it hidden. I like being the only one that knows I have it. It's just
gives you a little warm feeling in your heart.
It's something that when I was still an officer, I was a detective and I had a partner, and we're moving around the streets in unmarked cars and just going to lunch. And all of a sudden something would happen and you'd get somebody that just goes crazy in traffic. And I just get out of your way. I concede, you can have it. And my partner would always laugh and go, that guy has no earthly idea what's sitting beside him in this car. And they just don't. I think that's something that's important for people carrying a firearm to realize as well. You never know what's in that other car. You don't ever know who's on the next aisle at the grocery store.
You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know somebody else's level of training or preparedness or even mental attitude at that point in time. And so it's always best to be kind. Teddy Roosevelt is speak softly, carry a big stick. Just carry it underneath your shirt.
I'm going to tell you some of the most dangerous guys I've met on the planet. you would never know it. You would absolutely never know the level of training and expertise and ability to enact violence. They don't even look the part.
But they do have kind of a look about them, though. I'm thinking of several that have a very similar look. And that look is kind of like, I think they're wondering what your liver would taste like. But anyway, I don't know. I'm just thinking.
That's so funny that you say that, because, you know, our COO for CCW Safe is Stan Campbell. Stan was over the defensive tactics program for the police department I worked for. And as he promoted and moved on, I came in behind and I was the one that took his place in that. So goodness, for probably 16 years, that was our baby. That was our fingerprints all over that thing. And they were just, and we've got guys that walk this earth, that even Stan, that we would have command staff call us and go, oh my goodness, you got Officer X over here that is in use of force after use of force after use of force, and we can't figure it out. You don't have that number of uses of force. And it was funny because neither one of us had conferred with the other, but we would always tell command that I can teach them the techniques. I can teach them how to do it. I can't teach them the look. You have it or you don't. And when you get into really rough neighborhoods where kids are growing up around violence all the time and gang stuff, they are better at reading people than most grown adults. They absolutely have more street savvy, more street sense, and they understand how to identify a predator. Those same ones that are become predators also understand when they're engaging with somebody that's not playing. And it's all in that look. So all of a sudden it kind of becomes kind of a standoff kind of thing. So there's so many things that go into self-defense. And for a citizen carrier, I want everybody, if you're just now getting into this and you're just learning how to do these things, evaluate and determine what your mission is. Because you're not the cop, you're not law enforcement. I did that for years and years. I don't do that anymore. I'm a civilian carrier. I just carry for immediate protection if I have to have it. And it's only if I have to have it.
Let's talk about being an officer. Now, you put on your gear, you got your badge on, you got your car, you're on, right? You have to have that level of preparedness, that level of you're on. And like at the end of 8 hours of that, you're exhausted. That kind of, so it's something I don't believe that a civilian can walk around with 24 hours a day. Plus, a lot of times you have partners. One guy's looking this way and the other guy's looking this way. So you have each other's back covered when you're not engaged in something specifically. As individuals, we typically don't have that. And I think that, like the point you were making earlier, open carry, I'm glad we have the right to it. I think there's great places for it. I would never say not to have that right. I think it's important that you realize that with our rights come responsibilities. If you're open carrying, you're like, hey, I got my Smith & Wesson 629 strapped on here and 2 speed loaders across the front. I'm a flag. I have this here. And you just need to realize that it could be a deterrent. If somebody sees it, they don't want to go directly and confront that. That doesn't mean they may not set up an ambush, get your attention, do like the old con men would do. They'd have a girl walk by over here, take his attention on something, bump him, pick his pocket, right? Well, the same kind of thing happens. Or you see somebody, I think a lot of the closed circuit TV incidents that we see happen at gas stations because they can drive up, drive away. So they're easy in, easy out. And, you know, you've got a gas, you're right-handed, your gun's on your right hip, you have a gas thing in your hand, you've shut it off, so you can't even spray them with gas anymore. You're almost combat ineffective. So it's probably a higher level of responsibility and awareness if you're open carrying that you've got to keep constant. And the concealed carry, you know, if they don't know you have it, if you're not printing severely, if they don't know that you have it, then there's no reason for them to act this way. And it's probably better to be a wild card in a situation than the flagpole.
Yeah. You know, Gary Eastridge did an article for us on training and talking about the different types of trainings that are available out there as a civilian gun owner and carrier, and the pros and cons of all the different types. And you've got some people that got into shooting either as a hobby or hunting, or it was just a friend took them and they really liked it and they enjoyed it. And as they got deeper and deeper into it, they discovered that they had a pretty decent aptitude for it and the ability to impart that wisdom to a friend. And all of a sudden they want to become an instructor. So they start going through some instructor level courses. Those people can take you, especially a ground zero new gun owner, they can really take you up to the next level. And then you've got the guys that are competition shooters, and they're special. I mean, there's no question. If you want to come in here and talk about a JJ Racaza, guys like that, you know, and you're talking about best of the world, or Julie Golub. She's a shooter for Smith & Wesson. We'll have Julie on here coming up real soon. But the hours of preparation and drill and training that go into developing the things that they do, but they're in the laboratory all the time. That's the way I like to refer to it. They're constantly testing and fine tuning, and they can impart those things to other people as well. And then you've got, and I classify them differently because their missions are different, but military and law enforcement guys. And there's so many valuable lessons to be learned. I mean, you take a really high level competition shooter, and the military recognizes their value. They bring those guys in to train their best troops. Law enforcement recognizes that. We've cross-trained with military organizations. We have gone outside and gotten stuff from your competition guys. We've got guys that shoot competition stuff. We have guys that have been at the highest level training wise within the military. And I know that I used to help prepare prior to deployments some of the units that were going over in like a detention mission. Yeah, they're going to work the jails and do things like that. And we would do a lot of hands-on things for those guys and bring them up to speed, because you kind of have to get all of the different pieces to develop the very best soldier, the very best officer, the very best concealed carrier. You can make yourself really well-rounded. You don't want to dive into that little thing where you just get sucked into that one little hole, and that's just where you're at, because, you know, Rob High is the guy that trains me for this, and that's the only one I trust. No, don't do that. Get out there and steal from everybody. I always love the Bruce Lee stuff. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna sit under Phil Naman. He's gonna teach me all his stuff, and I'm gonna be able to make the determination that Phil's bigger and stronger and faster or whatever in this area. It works for him. That'll never work for me. I throw that out. But all of a sudden, this little finesse thing over here, ooh, yeah, that works really good. I'm going to hang on to that. I'm adding that to my toolbox.
My number one move is to grab a 2-pound can of beans off the shelf. I open carry some Swanson's Green Giant beans on my
Lima beans.
Oh, God. Lima beans are deadly. They'll kill. Lima beans, soybeans, that's death. Make me eat those, I'm gonna die. Let's talk about the rules of engagement, because you brought up some interesting things. You've got guys who are competition shooters, so they look at one thing, police officers, and I did some little hanging out with some guys who were on the teams. Now, their rules of engagement are a lot different than ours, or as a police officers. As a police officer, you can't do what they do when they have to break in doors and clear rooms and settle the bad guys in a short fashion. And so you have to understand that as a civilian, which is who we're talking to here, our level of force has to be proportionate to the threat. And that's an important thing. Like, you train with these high speed, these team guys, and they're like, boom, bam, 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 bam. They're doing great stuff. It's great shooting. And that's the level they're at for the job they're performing. You're shopping at Safeway. That's not the job you're performing, right? It's a different level. And so we have to keep in mind, we're in America, we're citizens. These are our responsibilities. These are our rights. How does that play out? So our rules of engagement, I think, need to be well understood before you ever strap on any kind of firearm. The other thing we talked about, competition shooters. Now, I like to go and I like to shoot the competitions. I am not a great competition shooter. I like to shoot with my carry gun. So I'll have like a SIG 365 as opposed to an STI double stack. Or the Glock 19 or something just traditional. I like to do that because that's what I'm carrying. And the other thing that I like about it, that I try and do, which is different, I use every round as if it was training. So a lot of times, you'll watch them. If you go to do an IDPA or IPSC or whatever, when you get to the stage, everybody does these walkthroughs. So they all imagine them shooting. They say, okay, I'm gonna step here, I'm gonna draw, I'm firing 2-2, 2-2, 2-2, 2-2, reload, move here. I've got 2 to the left, 2 to the right, spinner, reload, move to the next window. So they go through this, they set themselves a program. Well, life isn't like that. And I'm not saying these guys aren't great shooters that wouldn't do well in a life situation, but I take a look at that. It's like, okay, I'm going to assess and shoot the targets as I come upon them. I'd rather do it cold. I'm not going to win. Okay. I'm not going to win the stage. I'm not going to win the match. I want to do this as practice for me. Somebody else was kind enough to set up this entire thing for me to come out and practice for me for $20. Dude, I'm not going to set up that many targets. So it's a great event. And I like to shoot it like that and realize you're not going to be the number one scorer, because you don't have to pre-plan your shoots. You shoot them as you see them and work it that way. Even when we go skeet shooting, I start with a low gun. Everybody's like, why do you do that? It's like, well, because I don't quail hunt like this all the time. I've got a gun cross here. Yes, I'm going to shoot, less than if I had a perfect score with a mounted gun. But when I'm shooting skeet or sporting clays, I'm practicing the low mount to my shoulder. It's getting my face on the gun quicker than people who are used to that. So when we're in the field, man, I do a little bit better than the other guys, but because you practice that way. And so anyway, so you go to a competition, you'll see the guys, they kind of from a conga line going through. It's kind of funny to watch, but use your training for yourself. There's you go to a match with 100 people, there are 10 guys who are competitive at the top edge. Any of those 10 can win it. The rest of you are there to improve your own game. So know where you're at, know what you want to do with that stage. Hey, I want to practice. I want to get some of them, let's say some of the first 2 targets are 3 feet away. You know what I need to do? I need to clear the holster, fire from retention, 2-2, 2-2 as quick as I can, because that's great practice for that, because that's really what we're dealing with. And, as opposed to quick draw, press, fire, aim, pick different things you want to work on the stages and use the competition for training, I think is a great thing. Now, if you're going to win, if you're one of the top 10 guys, ignore everything I said. You already got it figured out.
Everything you just said was just so perfect for that, though. What those guys do is choreographed. They already know. I'm moving to the left. I'm stepping here. I move 3 steps forward and 3 more to the left, and I got to take a barricaded position, and I know that I can't get my foot over this line or I'm going to foul, so I have to get a little body lean going, and I have to do this and I have to do that. It's choreographed. A gunfight is not choreographed.
Unless it's on John Wick.
those are choreographed.
I'll have to ask Taryn.
You just destroyed that image for me. But yeah, it is mission specific. A soldier has rules of engagement, and when they're on that mission, they just carry out what the mission is. That's what they do. That's what they've been trained to do. That's what keeps us safe in our little bubble in this side of the world. Law enforcement does that on the home front. They have obligations that they have to engage in at times. Not anything that anybody ever looks forward to. Nobody ever says on such and such date, such and such time, I want to get in a car pursuit. I only chase somebody in reaction to their action. I have to respond to what they've done. Same thing with a fight. I don't go out there and go, there's little Phil Naman on the corner, I'm going to go punch him in the nose.
Do that again? Come on, man.
Phil has to do something that provokes and makes that where that is the response I have to come with.
I think I do that a lot.
Same way with the shooting. Officers are responding to something. They're already behind the 8 ball most of the time. Very rarely are they the initiator. You have some tactical things, some SWAT things that come up that are a little different. But again, that's a different mission than the patrol officer. We're talking about things that are mission specific. So as a concealed carrier, and this is just something I want guys to think about on their own. Do I want to think about what kind of gun am I carrying? I want something that's quality, that is functional, that I know is not going to fail me. It is a piece of equipment, so there is always going to be some degree of the potential for failures. It's a machine. But do I want to go in and all of a sudden I've got a laser on this and this kind of light, and I got a red dot and I got all this stuff? Why are you doing all that? And are you gonna feel comfortable sitting in front of a jury when they pull out exhibit 1 and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, what is this guy doing? You know, he looks like he's out for RoboCop.
Plus, it's awful hard to find a side holster that has your bayonet coverage. So, you may want to not have the bayonet on your pistol. I'm thinking, just especially if you're going appendix carry. Just
food for thought. Just food for thought. Appendix carry and
your bayonet,
yeah,
one time,
and birth control all at once. So
back to the tourniquet.
Oh my goodness, I need a little one. Oh my goodness. We've talked guns, we've talked holsters. Something a lot of people don't give a lot of thought to is don't put a $125 holster and a $500 gun and attach it to a plastic belt or something that's just little thin garbage piece of thing. Make sure that you get you a good quality web belt or a good quality leather belt. Make sure it's a good leather belt. I mean, there's people out there very specifically that design and build these things for people that carry guns. Looper Leather Goods was one of my major suppliers when I was buying things for the police academy for my recruits. I knew that there was quality in everything that he built for me, and it was going to hold up to the rigors of a cop being out on the street. He makes belts for civilians as well. Really good stuff. Hank's belt makes really, really good stuff. My favorite nylon belt right now, or web belt, is a EDC belt company, and it is my favorite soft belt that goes with a pair of jeans, and it's durable, but it's comfortable. It doesn't hurt my back and things like that. And if you haven't carried a gun before and you haven't had those kind of things around your waist, those are considerations that you need to keep in mind.
And the stiffer the belt is, the better it supports the gun, but it doesn't dig into your side with the gun. The weight of the gun turns, so it's an important factor. I do a lot of hunting, so one of my favorite belts is I like the Ranger style belt. And I like the stiff ones. There's some thin ones, some cheap ones. You need to get the stiffer ones if you're going to carry. But what I like about it for hunting too, you talk about dual purpose, right? Is you can take it off, make a loop, and put it through the hocks and drag your animal back out. So, if you exactly go around the antlers, whatever it is, you've got a drag strap right there, and it's multiple purpose.
And make sure your pants fit. Otherwise, you're going to do the drag and sag.
Yeah, no, we don't have any of those problems. We don't do that. I don't like that prison look on anybody. I'll just say that.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so many things out there. We're talking mission specific, and am I going to carry an additional magazine? Am I going to carry a tourniquet? Am I going to carry any kind of medical gear with me? And we've touched on all of these things. I also think that if you are physically capable, you should shock yourself and go plug yourself into a force-on-force course of some type. Go hands-on, because I promise you are going to perform at the level of your preparedness on your worst day. You're not going to, it's that one day out of 100 where everything clicks. Don't expect that to be the day when you are involved in a self-defense incident. Nothing about those are clean or pretty or sterile. They're ugly. Violence is very ugly. So, but if you can't do a full force-on-force thing, at least get somebody that has some knowledge in handgun retention, and they're gonna teach you some holstered gun retention. They're gonna teach you some drawn gun retention. If they're high speed enough, they'll take you through some handgun disarming things.
Take them to the wall, take them to the car.
Yes. In the environment where this is going to take place. One of the best defensive tactics schools I ever did was for police corps. It was put on by the Department of Justice, and the entire course was done in full BDUs, soft body armor vest, and a gun belt, because
that's what you carry.
Cops always train, they train this stuff in t-shirts and shorts in the gym on the mat.
Plus we've seen you guys' legs, and I think the long pants are better.
So, this particular course, everything we learned the technique on the mat, and it was like, okay, now let's get into the laboratory. Let's go over here on the tile. Let's go over here on the carpet. Let's take it outside. We're going to go do this in the grass. We're going to do it over here on the parking lot, because everything is different. We did it in elements, in rain and things like that. It was just, it's the environment that you're going to have to do this in. People think, well, nothing changes. It's got cold outside, so I got my jacket on and my gloves. Have you shot with your gloves on? I'm going to tell you, your world just changed. Your trigger control is different as soon as you put anything in between your finger and that trigger, even if it's just a glove. So there's so many thoughts and considerations and things that you have to get into to
even
do
moving.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even so, let's talk about cold weather, right? It was 10 degrees in Prescott a couple of weeks ago. I was up here. And so you've got a big bulky jacket. So there's a couple things. If you're concealed, you've got to clear a big bulky jacket. Well, guess what? You got the big jacket, then there's a sweater because it was Christmas time over the pistol. So you got to go over, up, to get to it. There's a lot more things. What if you're shooting a rifle? Well, a lot of people, especially where I'm from, California, you go to the gun store and you're dressed like this, a polo shirt, just a regular shirt, nothing big, bulky wise, and you pick up your Remington 700. You're like, oh, this feels great. So you go to the range, you shoot it, everything's fine. Then you go out in November to Colorado and you've got your down jacket on, 2 shirts underneath that, and then your backpack straps across, and the elk comes out and you throw up your gun and you're like, they can't shoulder the rifle because they didn't anticipate some things. So the condition, like you're saying, the condition that you're in is going to affect how you're going to operate. And there's ways, you should have had your buttstock cut down 1/2 inch or 1 inch or something like that to mitigate that. Because if you're going to use it in November, you have to sacrifice its form in July. But anyway, that's it's getting a little bit more experience to know what you're dealing with. Nobody's going to, I shouldn't say nobody, few people are going to say, okay, I'm in my winter garb, I'm carrying appendix. How does this work? Zip, lift. I mean, hey, it's an effect. Maybe you want to do something under the shoulder if you got those big whole jackets on. So you're under one layer of clothes, zip, and it's there, different things.
And again, every single bit of that fits under what that mission is at that time. I have to recognize those things. If I'm going to carry this thing responsibly, that's part of my whole preparation. I know that when the recruits that I was training would get out of the academy, they had the ability to move away from their issued sidearm. They could go to something else as long as it was on the approved list. They'd have to go out and qualify with it. And, the range master would sign off on it. And they had the ability to change their holsters. And the numbers of repetitions that they got with that sidearm and with that holster in the academy setting, in my opinion, needs to be duplicated before they make a switch. We didn't have anything in policy that made them do that. But I need you to have autonomic responses that I know this holster works like this. I've come out of it 1,000 times. I changed a firearm. I was probably 2 or 3 years into my career, and some friends of mine were involved in a shooting, and the man was shot 17 times.
That's when you went to the auto mag
and lived. And I just made up my mind right then that I'm just going to bigger knockdown. So I went from a 9 to a 45. Now my brother and I made a trip.
I have to stop you right there.
Yes.
You talk about complaints from me on this show. Boy, yes. You just said you chose a 45 over a 9. We're gonna get the hate mail. We are. That's it. That you want to cause a S storm. It's 9 does this, 45 does this, and the gunfights happen. So just be aware. I didn't cause this one.
I fully understand, and I'm telling you this. I wouldn't make that same decision today. I have a much greater faith in the performance of duty ammo that's out there today.
Big improvements.
So yes, I love a 9. I carry a 9. That's what I choose. That's what I go with.
Now you're backpedaling. Just go back to your 45 story.
But before I made that change, my brother and I were driving to go see my grandparents in Tennessee. That's a 12-hour drive from our house. And I dry fired the whole trip, just over and over and over, snapping my trigger in, getting used to that gun, operating the system. And I did the exact same thing when I went to a new holster. I just got thousands of reps before I ever put it on my duty belt and said, here I go. This is the way I'm walking out into the world now. I just felt I just had a great responsibility to make sure that I was absolutely as efficient and proficient with it as I possibly could be. I see people that I know have not put in the work like that. You're not, I understand the mission is different, but you still have an obligation to be as responsible with a firearm as you possibly can be. It's like we had Matt and Angela Little on, and Matt was really big on, he thought maybe you should jump out there and do some competition stuff, stretch yourself, press yourself, make yourself uncomfortable, because it only prepares you to better survive a real live dangerous encounter when it happens. And I agree with him wholeheartedly.
You talked about driving out there 12 hours, dry firing a gun. Some people in the olden days said, oh, you shouldn't dry fire it, you're going to hurt it. It never made sense to me, because it seems that a lot more happens to a gun when a projectile actually goes off than just dry firing it, right? So
when a controlled explosion happens in your hand.
Yeah, I think that's worse than just dry firing, but that's my assumption. But Jason Miyashiro, when we have him on, he's really big on this, but he turned me on to a company called Dry Fire Mag, and they make magazines for Glocks. I think I have one for the 21 and the 1917, but it resets. So one of the problems, if you're going to be dry firing and you've got a striker fired pistol, or I think you were talking about a 1911, right? So every time you pull the trigger, you got to cycle it back, which is good for reps. But if you're practicing dry firing, it's a slow way to go. This dry fire mag, you insert it, you obviously clear your gun, you insert it in the place of its regular magazine after the gun's been cocked, and it resets your trigger. So instead of you having to, so it's got the right reset, it resets your trigger when you snap on an empty chamber, and it continues to go. It won't fire as a real one, or at least it shouldn't, but that's a good way. If you've got a 17, a 19, or 21, or I guess even the smaller guns will work with it because you just have a magazine sticking out. But that was really a neat thing, because you can sit there and go for 20 minutes, 30. I mean, that's a lot of, your finger's going to get cramped after 10, but you could do a lot of dry firing, different scenarios, and not have to worry about keep racking the gun and going to reset and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity to get that trigger rep and not have to go through that whole reset. It's another thing that I kind of get into is yes, it's expensive to shoot now. It's the price of ammunition has gone up. Everything about it is it's a costly hobby. But if I'm going to carry this thing, I need to make sure that I am 100% prepared to do it safely. And dry fire is one of those things that I don't think you can ever do enough of. It's something that there's so many parts of my basic shooting fundamentals that I can work on as I'm doing that. I get my proper grip. I can get my proper sight alignment. Now, obviously, when I'm rolling in the car, I'm not pointing out the window and pointing at cars going by and being a moron. I'm just.
I didn't want to ask that. I wasn't sure the answer.
Guns pointed at the floor, and nobody besides my brother knows I have a pistol in my hand. But to know that trigger and to know where it breaks and to be kind of that in tune with it, that I'm not going to have a negligent discharge. My primary safety is right there anyway, and I never put it on there unless I'm ready for this thing to go off. It just doesn't. Same way if I'm dry firing, I don't just roll my finger on the trigger the whole time. I practice doing safe handling skills the whole time I'm doing it. So there's so many valuable pieces to that. And it's one of those that you see a lot of new shooters that get on the range and they start a trigger press, and then all of a sudden they hesitate, and all of a sudden now it feels like, goodness gracious, it's a 25-pound trigger pull now. And it's not. It's just I've instead of having a nice smooth stroke from start to finish, I've paused it in the middle, and all the other things are going off as well. Now I'm not breathing properly, and all of a sudden my it was my hands right. And get out of your head. They're pulling a trigger is a super simple, not a big deal. And at the same time, if it's not done right, it's a really big deal. So that dry fire stuff it's just invaluable.
I think another thing, because there is a large cost to buying ammunition these days. So how do you get the most practical practice with the least amount? I always see the newer shooters are the guys who grab their magazine, put 15 rounds in it, stand there and blast away till it's all empty again, right?
Yes.
Somebody who's training with a purpose might do something like have 3 mags across the front with 1 bullet in each one, and draw, fire, drop, reload, rack, fire. I mean, so for every shot that you're taking, you've got like 5 or 6 different things that you're practicing doing.
Yeah.
I think and plus you go through your ammunition a lot slower. So if you did 50 rounds like that, you're done. If you loaded your magazine 15 rounds and shot it 3 times, it's okay. 5 minutes later, you're done. But if you did 50 rounds, 1 shot at a time, reloading, picking up your mags and doing everything like that, your competency level is going to grow far more than just shooting 50 rounds at the paper target.
Right. Yeah. Practice with a purpose. One of the things we always did with rookies on the line is same thing.
Well, but you always tortured them with something else, though. You always made them look this way and put the safety on their gun, and they get it, and the gun won't go off. I know you.
We'd have them pull out 3 magazines, load them up, 3 live rounds and 1 dummy round. So not just that. I mean, I've got to make those mandatory magazine changes through the course of this thing, but I also all of a sudden have to deal with a malfunction, and I got to clear it and make it work. I've heard lots of people talk about this. I kind of have mixed emotions on it. As a cop, I want my guys to know exactly where their holster is, because they're always going to have to be looking for additional threats. So my incident is over and it's time to holster, and I just holster and secure because I know where it's at. It's a part of me now. I also know how many reps it takes to get to that point, and I know a lot of concealed carriers do not. But again, your mission is a little different. Now, Mass, in his class this weekend, he was very adamant. He wants even concealed carriers. He wants civilian carriers to be able to holster without looking. And I know he's only been doing this for 50 something years. I get it.
51.
Yeah, I get it. But I also know how many bad things occur with guys not paying attention to holstering their firearm. And I've been present when things have gone wrong on a firing line. I've seen people that were hit. There's just nothing cool about a gunshot injury.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys on the competitions. They draw, they fire, boom, 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 click. And it's like the timer stopped. Why are we? Your shirt could be hanging over.
Yes.
I know the gun's cleared. It's just a really bad habit, and I see them literally throwing the gun into their holsters, and that's where something bad's going to happen. When I carry appendix, again, this is Phil's phobias. Okay, in the mind of Phil here, I am very uncomfortable carrying a 1911 locked and cocked. I know it's safe. I get it. I don't like to do that. The other thing is I will not reholster my inside the waistband pistol without taking the holster out, putting the gun in, and then putting it away. That's the way I like to do it. And I like my appendages just where they are. And so I'm willing to do that. I don't care if it takes me a little extra second, but
I've watched over and over again some of the best instructors around that are very adamant about, clear your stuff just as if I was drawing, but I clear again as I go to reholster, and I look my gun into the holster. I absolutely I physically watch it go into the holster safely. I've seen guys that want to go holster and they still got a finger on the trigger. Good God. If I am not engaged in the act of shooting, my finger is not on the trigger. So
that's 10,000 rounds later, though. I saw a video clip that came out of a gun store. This is maybe 5 or 6 years ago. It was a chief of police wearing a windbreaker, and he took his gun out. The guy was putting a light on it or something. He wanted to reholster it, goes to reholster it, and the little cord from his windbreaker, got right where it shouldn't have gone. He holstered it, shot himself right there. And, he's trying to blame the gun. It's like, no, dingus, you did this. You didn't clear. You just assumed. And loose clothing, winter clothing, that stuff happens. We also have our most famous poster boy for gun control, the ATF agent in Florida.
Yes. Okay.
Sir limps along.
I'm okay.
It's all right. I'll mop that up later. It's okay.
It'll only hurt here in a minute. Right now we're good. Oh.
But what happened, right?
So, yeah.
Throwing his gun in his holster, a bang. Throwing a loaded gun in with his finger on the trigger, and everything else he was doing wrong. But yeah.
Well, we want to thank everybody for joining in again with us. We have got lots of great people coming up, and a lot of things lined up for you that I think you're really going to enjoy. As I always say, we always welcome your questions, concerns, compliments, criticisms of Phil, none of me. I'm tenderhearted, but you can always reach me direct. It's rob@ccwsafe.com, and I will get back to you with quickness. So we appreciate you guys so much. Phil, good show. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. God bless.
We will talk to you guys soon. Thank you guys. Bye.